For the first time in almost 60 years, the Charlie Brown Christmas special will not be airing on broadcast television, as this and all of the Peanuts franchise has been purchased by Apple TV+. While Apple made the show free for viewers for a few days, I can't help but feel that this is the end of an era and one of the final blows to the 20th century. Because of this, I wanted to take a look at why this film has been so influential, and why it has remained a Christmas classic over many generations. A Charlie Brown Christmas is a perfect encapsulation of a tension that surrounds the modern holiday season. A general dissatisfaction with the vapid feeling of the consumerist and materialistic aspect of the holiday, as well as the antidote, the true meaning of Christmas. This antidote is a present theme throughout much Christmas media.
Oh, Christmas isn't just a day. It's a frame of mind.
In Charlie Brown, there is the explicit use of this superficial Christmas and the remedy of the true meaning. We see Charlie Brown disillusioned with the Christmas season and not satisfied with the materialistic ideas of his friends. And it isn't until Linus reads the Christian Christmas gospel story that Charlie Brown re-accepts Christmas and celebrates with his friends. This film is unique in the holiday genre for a number of reasons. Firstly, in its overt religiosity. Most mainstream Christmas media never outright mentions the Christmas faith, or only does so in passing and not as the main motivator for the story or message. Second, A Charlie Brown Christmas marks a turning point in how we think about this return to the true meaning of Christmas. Perhaps the most common Christmas narrative follows the Scrooge archetype. Here a man, and yes it is almost always a man, has fallen out of the spirit of Christmas. The man is then reintroduced to the magic of Christmas throughout the course of the story, often through literal magic. These stories generally have the true meaning of Christmas being ideas of gathering and community, family values, a return to youthful joy, or a vague love. Charlie Brown is somewhat of an extension of this Scrooge archetype. He too is disillusioned with Christmas and refines the holiday spirit. However, the difference comes from the fact that in these other stories, Christmas is the pure, holy thing that the Scrooge character needs to let back into his life. In A Charlie Brown Christmas, not only does Charlie Brown need to return to this pure meaning, but everyone does. The very Christmas they are celebrating needs redemption. We see this shift in the reinterpretation of the Grinch story as well. In the original Grinch story, which was published in 1955, we see the Grinch as the Scrooge character being reintroduced to the true meaning of Christmas from the Whos, who know that Christmas isn't about presents, but about gathering and community. In the 2000s reimagining of this story, we see that the townspeople have also lost sight of the true meaning of Christmas, with Cindy Lou Who as the Charlie Brown character, trying to reconnect with what Christmas is really about.
Where are you, Christmas? Why can't I find you?
This meaning is once again shown to the townspeople to be gathering, community, love, and forgiveness. This reimagining of the Grinch plays out as the secular version of the Charlie Brown story in that the way we celebrate Christmas en masse has been corrupted. The religiousness of A Charlie Brown Christmas seems a symptom of the conservative want to hold on to the Christian family values of the 1950s in the rapidly changing culture of the 1960s. We see this strain between the conservative Christmas and the changing times in the fact that only 1 year later, in 1966, Kwanzaa was first celebrated. Kwanzaa was created by Maulana Karenga, a prominent figure in the Black Power movement, with the intent to offer Black Americans an alternative to Christmas, quote, an opportunity to celebrate themselves and their history, rather than simply imitate the practice of the dominant society. I find it interesting that the one film that has been played on TV so consistently during the month of December over generations has been the one that is so much more religious than its other mainstream counterparts, especially given that we are rapidly becoming a more secular society. However, I think there is another distinction from the Scrooge archetype that makes Charlie Brown resonate to people in the modern dissonance of this holiday, where a lot of the Scrooge characters are either actively anti-Christmas or just oblivious to their own shortcomings. Charlie Brown sees that he isn't in the holiday spirit and actively wants to participate in the expectations of the holiday. There are a lot of active Christmas Scrooges out there, but I think what a lot of people feel is holiday burnout. This holiday asks much of the modern person. It can be financially and emotionally difficult, and it asks a lot of our time, energy, and patience. We often feel like Charlie Brown. Isn't this supposed to mean something? Isn't there a reason why we're doing all this?
Isn't there anyone Who knows what Christmas is all about?
This holiday burnout feels a symptom of a larger issue with U.S. holiday traditions, that they are being removed from their original meaning. Take carving pumpkins. We no longer hear of folk stories about scaring away spirits. We carve pumpkins simply because that's what you do around Halloween, what's always been done. Many Christmas traditions come from European pagan solstice traditions. Even growing up in a Christian household, there was a disconnect between hanging a wreath on my door and the birth of a child savior. Similarly, Charlie Brown makes no attempt to connect
A Savior, which is Christ the Lord.
with. Even outside of European paganism, the winter solstice has been celebrated by looking at the light in the darkest time of the year. From the Persian Yalda night to the Hindu Makar Sankranti, these holidays share a commonality of celebrating the light in the darkest days of the year. It makes sense theologically that Christians aligned Christmas with these holidays, as Jesus is symbolized as the light coming into a dark world.
And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid, and the angel said unto them,
This time of year has been celebrated by people for thousands of years. This darkness is significant and difficult, and for generations and across cultures, people have gathered to get through it together, showing that we as people can create light, warmth, and life in the dark times. Like all movies, Christmas movies wrap up and neatly solve the questions of the meaning of Christmas with which they engage. Obviously, life doesn't have these neat endings, and we return to these movies and questions year after year. Every year, Charlie Brown restarts his journey. We connect with him because, unlike Scrooge, he wants to find the holiday just like we do, but feels lost on how to do it. And this is not individual. Everyone's holiday seems to have fallen toward a vapid reproduction. But every year we search, because this season is hard. And maybe that's why we go back to Charlie Brown each year, to begin our search again. Thank you so much for watching my first ever YouTube video. I will be putting out more videos in the future, so feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want to see those. I just wanted to end this video saying that since the time of scripting this and its release, Apple caved to public demand and made a deal with PBS to have a single showing of the Charlie Brown special that happened earlier in December. Yet, there is no guarantee of broadcasts in future years at this point, and it's not the same as running it the week of Christmas. However, because PBS has a non-commercial educational status, this is the first time in decades that a Charlie Brown Christmas has been shown without commercial interruption, and that feels so much more in line with the message the creators wanted. So on that note, have a happy holiday, and I hope to see you back here soon.